I paid $14,000 in family bills on my birthday. They said, no gifts, help your sister instead, so I cut the power. Wi-Fi replied, we're done. I turned 31 on a Tuesday. It wasn't a huge milestone, but it felt significant. I'd spent the previous 4 years assisting my parents with their bills, covering unexpected expenses, lending money to my sister Rachel when her ex failed to pay, and basically acting as the family's silent ATM. I did not complain. I assumed we were all simply getting by, and I happened to be doing slightly better. I think they appreciated it. I assumed it meant something. I invited them over. Nothing fancy. I barbecued, cleaned the place, and prepared the table as if it were Thanksgiving. I even created a playlist. I'm not sure what I expected. Perhaps some warmth, a card, or any indication that they knew it was my day for once. They arrived half an hour late. No presents, not even a bottle of wine. Rachel was already on edge. Since her child was behaving up, she put her stuff on my couch without saying anything. Mom gave me a short hug without looking at me. Dad went directly to the refrigerator to see what beer I had. They pretended to be stopping by someone else's house as if it was not my birthday at all. I served them steak, nice wine that I had purchased myself, and even had the chocolate cake chilling in the kitchen. Nobody commended anything. Rachel was scrolling through her phone halfway through the meal while her child splattered food all over my table. I attempted to keep the discussion light, but I kept getting one-word answers and exhausted groans. Mom turned to me as they were departing, as if she was realizing something she had forgotten. There won't be any presents this year, replied the woman. But your sister needs help with gifts for her child. Dad joined in, as if everything was settled. You owe it to your family. I just stood there. No one had said happy birthday, not even once. It wasn't the lack of presents that bothered me. It was how they expressed it, like I should have known. Like it made perfect sense to forego my birthday so Rachel's child could have something extra, like I was an afterthought. I told them it was all right, smiled, said I understood and let them leave thinking they were still in charge of the screenplay. After they went, I sat in silence for a bit. I kept expecting the weight in my chest to turn into despair, but it didn't. It transformed into clarity. I opened my laptop and signed into every account I had ever made for them. Their electricity and gas were disconnected. They canceled their Netflix, Wi-Fi, and streaming subscriptions, which they never paid for but always used. Rachel no longer has the extra card I provided her for emergencies. Then I went downstairs to turn off the thermostat. It was going to be freezing tonight. Good. Let them feel it. I initiated our family conversation with my parents, Rachel, and myself. No emojis and no drama, only one line. I'm taking back everything I gave you, and I'm leaving with it all. I immediately turned off my phone and sat in the dark for an extended period of time. It felt peaceful but not empty, like the calm before a storm. And that is exactly what happened next. When I awoke the next morning, I knew exactly what I was going to see. My phone buzzed as if it had something vital to tell me, but I let it vibrate until the battery died. When I finally plugged it in and turned it on, there were over 70 unread messages across our family, group chat and direct texts. Rachel had initiated it, of course. The texts came in waves, first demanding to know what was going on, then accusing me of being dramatic and emotionally unstable, and ultimately attempting to pull me back in with passive, aggressive guilt. You're blowing everything up over nothing. Grow up. This family has done so much for you. You think you're the only one struggling. My mother then delivered a lecture that appeared to be typed with shaky fingers. It was all about how families make sacrifices for one another, and she couldn't believe I was turning on them like way. She expressed disappointment. That word has always been their favorite. Never. Sorry, only disappointed. It felt as if my entire function was to gently carry the weight they had given me. My father didn't bother with paragraphs, just sent grow up. There's no period. Just these 2 words. That was his understanding of emotional involvement. Rachel was the only one who continued messaging after I had not responded. She began asking about the thermostat. They said it was 63 in their residence and the child was cold. They asked when I planned to turn it back on. She used her son as a barrier, as if I was harming him. Rather than removing myself from the disaster, they continued to pretend it was normal. Around 9:30 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I did not look through the peephole. I knew it was Rachel. No call, no text. Only she stood there as if nothing had occurred. She didn't even wait for the invitation, just walked right past me and into the kitchen. She opened a cabinet, poured herself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter, as if she still lived there. You're seriously cutting everyone off because you didn't get a birthday present, said the woman. I did not respond right away. I kept the stillness just long enough to make it uncomfortable. She didn't stop. Everyone's helping me, except you. Even Mom and Dad have been trying, but you act like I chose this. That's when I politely asked her where she was currently working, which firm she was with. She did not look me in the eyes, said something cryptic about working, freelance contracts, part-time work and remote cases. I waited. She finally sighed and spoke. She wasn't working anymore, hasn't been in about a year, got laid off. Never informed our parents she'd been lying about it. stating she was still making six figures while blowing every penny of her funds. Her credit cards were maxed out. She stated that she intended to sort it out eventually, but in the meanwhile, everyone else's money was required to fill in the gaps. That's when it all became clear: the parties, the clothes, and the extravagant gifts for her children that she never paid for herself. It was not about survival. It was all about appearance. She was drowning, but too proud to admit it and too lazy to swim. She expressed exhaustion, overwhelm, and difficulty doing things alone. I said I believed her. I said I'd help, but not by giving her money. I stated I'd phone social services in the morning because someone needed to intervene before things got worse. I was afraid she would have a breakdown. Instead, she burst. Someone called me a snake, said I was punishing her for being a single mother. They accused me of turning on my own family over something trivial. She stormed out and slammed the door behind her. I did not chase her. I didn't feel sorry. For the first time, I felt a sense of tranquility. I placed the call at 8:43 a.m. the next morning, not because I was upset or attempting to provoke a scene. There was no wrath left in me, only the absolute certainty that something had to be done. I calmly told the woman on the other end of the telephone that my sister had lost her legal career over a year ago, that she had lied to the entire family about it, and that she was stealing money from everyone while partying and uploading filtered images, as if her life was perfect. I told how her son was used as a shield, only referenced when she needed money, and never seen or discussed otherwise. I told them I wasn't sure if he was in immediate danger, but I was certain he wasn't receiving the care he needed from someone who was silently spiraling behind a facade. The woman did not sound horrified, but rather professional. She accepted my statement and promised to follow up if required. I assumed that was the end of it. It was not. 3 days later, they arrived at Rachel's door. I just discovered out because she burst in a family group chat like a volcano, keeping it in. She said that someone had contacted child services on her and that it was clearly me. And how could I attempt to take her child away? How dare I ruin her life? How dare I act like I was superior to everyone? Then came the true venom. She wrote that I was envious, that I had always envied her success, her life, her child, and her apparent independence. I read it all silently. Everyone else in the group chat became quiet. Mom didn't say anything. Dad did not even log in. Then she began threatening legal action, said she was going to file harassment charges and possibly sue me for defamation, as if she had the money or standing to do so. I did not respond. Instead, I contacted my mother privately. I just wrote, "She's not a lawyer. Ask her." That was all. I'm not sure what happened after that, but according to what I heard later, my mom contacted Rachel the same night, and whatever Rachel told her didn't go down. Well, because the next day my mom messaged me unexpectedly. We didn't know. This is a lot. I don't know what to say. That was the closest thing to an apology I had ever received from her. But that didn't solve anything. It only reaffirmed what I already suspected. They were all too willing to look the other way as long as someone else bore the consequences. Rachel did not lose custody, but she was subjected to a number of conditions, including parenting seminars, financial monitoring, and proof of stability. The caseworker even informed her that they would be returning for unannounced visit. Suddenly, the money flow halted. No more gifts. There will be no more rapid deposits from mom and dad. The well had dried up and it hit her quickly. She began attempting to repair her internet image by posting lengthy paragraphs on how difficult parenthood is and how people closest to her had tested and betrayed her. I disregarded it, but other individuals did not. A handful of cousins I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me privately. They'd also loaned her money, believing she was still a practicing lawyer. One of them asked me directly if it was true she had been unemployed all year. I did not lie. I just answered, "She's been hiding more than that." A week later, an old family friend who always supported Rachel in everything invited me over for supper. She did not even mention Rachel. She simply stated that she had been meaning to catch up, as if something had quietly shifted, and she was ready to speak it out loud. That surprised me the most. I had not asked anyone to choose sides. I'd spent my entire life being the quiet one, the dependable one, the man who never made waves. And then, when I finally did, a few individuals began to gravitate toward me, not out of devotion, but because they were weary of pretending. Then Dad contacted me. He said he did not want us to be enemies. He claimed he missed when we were all close. He claimed the family was falling apart and blamed me for not consulting them first before going public. I told him the truth. You were only close to the version of me that let everyone else walk over him. That version is gone. He left me to read, which I was happy with. I began sleeping better. Not because everything was fixed, it was not. My family was dispersed and my relationships had deteriorated beyond repair. But there was a sense of calm in the honesty, even if it came with consequences. No more pretending, no more silent resentment. Then came the letter. It arrived in my mailbox one Friday afternoon. There's no return address, just my name and oddly neat handwriting. Inside there was one folded sheet of paper. It was from an attorney. Rachel had petitioned for the temporary transfer of my guardianship of her child. It didn't make sense at first. I was not the child's father. I had no custody rights. I was not even named as an emergency contact in any papers. But there it was in black and white. Rachel had filed for temporary guardianship of her child, alleging emotional instability caused by familial persecution and the need for distance. Rachel had filed for temporary guardianship of her child, alleging emotional instability caused by family persecution and the need for space to rehabilitate. It was her ruse, a setup she didn't expect me to see through because I was classified as a temporary guardian. She could say I accepted to care for her son. When I declined to take him, she could turn it into a story about me abandoning a child, which she could present to others, our parents, her friends, and possibly even the caseworker to continue playing the victim. I did not panic. I did not even call her. Instead, I consulted my own lawyer. Yes, I had one. Not because I intended to pursue a custody battle, but because I had discovered the hard way that anything involving Rachel required witnesses and papers. My lawyer filed a formal denial, along with a notice that no contact for guardianship had ever been established or agreed upon. We provided screenshots, timelines, and even previous writings that demonstrated her manipulation. It was completed. Within 24 hours, Rachel returned to the group chat on Monday, enraged. She claimed I had embarrassed her, that I had made her appear insane, and that she was attempting to offer me a chance to be involved to put things right. That was when I realized Mother had lied not just to our parents but also to herself. She still believed this was all about me being bitter. She could not accept that I no longer wanted to be a part of the act. A few hours later, I received a call from a woman named Carmen. She described herself as my sister's former coworker, claimed to have obtained my phone number from a common acquaintance, and stated that she felt compelled to contact me. I braced myself for another lecture, but she informed me that Rachel was not only sacked from her law firm but also reported for faking a signature on an internal document. It wasn't a high-profile case, so it never made headlines, but the firm allowed her to quit discreetly to avoid publicity. Rachel, according to Carmen, had been sliding since she began partying over spending, seeing individuals with questionable backgrounds, losing her apartment, and then lying about moving in with a friend when she was actually sleeping in her car. Some nights I thanked her, not because I needed the soil, but because it completed the remaining missing pieces. Rachel wasn't simply entitled. She was drowning and clinging to anyone who floated nearby, even if it meant dragging them down with her. I did not respond to her outburst in the group chat. I didn't respond to our parents' feeble follow-ups begging me to attempt to forgive. I'd already forgiven them. That's why I wasn't returning. It began with a birthday party, but not mine. My cousin, Naomi's child, was turning 4, and the entire extended family was invited, including Rachel. I wasn't intending on going at first, but Naomi contacted me personally. She said she understood if I didn't want to show there, but it would mean a lot to her, and she wanted me to know Rachel was also coming. I didn't answer immediately. I sat with it for a while. Then I decided to go, not to make a statement, not to prove anything, but simply to be in a location where I wasn't the villain. I imagined I'd just be a quiet presence in the corner, eat some cake, and then depart. When I walked in, I sensed something was off. People weren't looking at me the same way they used to. There were no awkward nods or forced smiles. There was a great deal of silent recognition. A couple individuals approached me, hugged me, and asked how I was. Nobody mentioned Rachel. She returned 30 minutes later, loud as ever, as if nothing had changed. Wearing a fancy jacket I knew she couldn't afford. Her child was hooked to a tablet with headphones on. She strolled around the room as if she owned it, greeting everyone by name and laughing way too loudly. She noticed me across the room, and her smile stopped for a moment. It appeared that she might come over, but she did not. She simply remained there, examining the room as if she were calculating something. Then, she created a scene. It started little. She was conversing with Naomi near the food table when she abruptly raised her voice about someone who believes they are superior to their own family. She didn't say my name, since she didn't have to. Everyone became quiet. Then she turned to me and told me directly, "Why are you even here? Are you trying to steal another kid, or just looking for more attention?" Nobody laughed. Nobody backed her up. Naomi took immediate action. She stated that she did not want any drama. During her children's party, I told Rachel that if she had anything to say, she could say it outside. Rachel scoffed, claiming that everyone was phony, and grabbed her child by the arm. But before she could go, her kid pulled away from her and stated loudly and clearly that he wanted to stay in front of everyone. Rachel froze. She tried to fake a smile and said she was joking. Unfortunately, it was too late. The silence in the room had changed, becoming heavier and more genuine. Her child did not want to leave with her, and everyone noticed. She hauled him out nevertheless, but not before slamming the door so hard. Knocked a decoration off the wall. People began whispering. A few of my cousins came over and apologized for her, for how they used to treat me, and for not noticing things sooner. I didn't need their apologies, yet they offered them anyhow. Later that week, Naomi phoned me. Rachel allegedly called her, crying and begged for money. She claimed she was being targeted and isolated. Naomi did not send a cent. She told her to get help. The word got around. After that, some of the folks who used to send Rachel money stopped answering her phone calls. Others simply blocked her. She began posting cryptic statements online about betrayal, phony smiles, and keeping your circle limited, as usual, but the mask was removed. People have now seen what was behind it, and once you've seen it, you can't go back. It had been nearly 5 months since everything fell apart. Rachel never recovered in the way she expected. At first she attempted to salvage the story. I shared a well-constructed personal post on Facebook full of vague references to betrayal, personal progress, and removing poison. A few individuals offered her the usual compassion. Most people didn't enjoy the post. I watched from a distance as the likes and comments dwindled to a trickle. She eventually got quiet there too. Our parents haven't apologized once. They made intermittent attempts to contact me. A voicemail here, a forwarded meme there, as if giving me a picture of a cat in a hat would be enough to cover over 31 years of imbalance. My father tried to keep everything casual, as if nothing significant had occurred. My mother inquired as to whether I had noticed the recent increase in the price of gasoline. These people relied on me to keep their lights on. I did not respond to any of it. It was no longer out of spite. It was recently finished. The period of my life, the character I played, was ended. I stopped waiting for them to comprehend. I stopped thinking they'd recognize the distinction between love and obligation. In the midst of all that silence, something weird began to happen. I became more acquainted with folks I had previously just met briefly. Cousins I hadn't seen in years invited me to their homes simply to hang out. A couple of family friends, who used to treat me like furniture in the background, have suddenly asked for my opinion and inquired about my life, not out of pity, but out of curiosity, genuine interest. It confused me at first, but it felt nice. I began taking modest trips just out of town. Weekend getaways. I stopped looking at my phone every few minutes. I stopped flinching as soon as I got the mail notice. The further I went away from the dysfunction, the more I realized how peaceful the world might be when no one demanded anything from you. I also met someone unexpectedly. We drank coffee one day and I didn't feel like I needed to wear armor. She didn't ask about my family or cry. Instead, she asked what had made me laugh lately. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to prove I wasn't broken. Then, last week, Rachel contacted me again, a new address with the same tone. She explained that she was working on herself and wanted to start a new chapter. However, approximately halfway through the message it turned. She wrote about how I had abandoned her when she needed it the most, that I was freezing, that I should have handled the situation as a brother, not a stranger. She concluded, "One day you'll regret cutting everyone off. Family is forever." I looked at those words for a long time. She still didn't understand it. Neither of them did. I never cut anybody off. I stopped bleeding for those who didn't realize I was hurting. There is a distinction. I closed and archived the email. The same night I opened the chat with my folks and scrolled all the way back. Thousands of messages, years of casual disregard, passive criticism, and repeated comparisons to Rachel. I read one where my mother wrote, "Jess is our star." Another time my father told me to be more like your sister. I'm not sure what I expected, but all I felt was remoteness. I exited the chat and erased the thread. That's how it concludes. Not with a bang, a tearful reunion, or a huge speech. Just me sitting alone in my flat, realizing that the silence was not loneliness. That was a relief. And in that solitude I created something better. Not vengeance, not justice, freedom. An update. Last week, as I was leaving a bookshop, I noticed a child sitting on the curb outside, legs crossed, playing with an old toy dinosaur. I recognized him before he looked up. It was Rachel's son. He appeared smaller and thinner than I remembered. Despite the wind, I did not wear a jacket. He was alone. I glanced around for her, or anybody. Nothing. After a brief period, I crouched down and inquired as to where his mother was. He shrugged, explaining that she had gone inside the loud establishment and urged him to wait. Later I realized he was referring to the bar across the street. I wasn't sure what to do at first. He didn't appear afraid, but rather as if this was nothing out of the ordinary. I contacted the non-emergency hotline and informed them that a child was left unaccompanied outside a bar. I did not say who he was. A cop car arrived around 10 minutes later. I watched from my car. 2 cops spoke to him softly. Rachel eventually emerged, stumbling slightly and irritated in the middle of her apology. They did not arrest her, but they did not ignore it either. The next day, I received an email from CPS. They wanted to speak with me, not because I was in trouble, but because the youngster had mentioned me as the uncle who made the good food that stayed with me. I'm meeting with them next week. I'm not sure what they will ask. I'm not sure if I want to be involved again, but maybe the child doesn't need me to fix anything. Maybe all he needs is one person who doesn't leave.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.